So these hydrangea have been in our shed all winter, and this is the first time that I have tried this. So these hydrangea were new last year, and because we are kind of borderline for the zones on how well hydrangea will do, we're about a 6B here, so a little bit colder than on the Cape. I decided to take them in just really to protect their buds, so we'd have the most bud count possible. So you can tell there's a lot more debris around here. They haven't had the wind to take off all the dead leaves. They've just been sitting in the shed. I have watered them about once a month, and I see a lot of new growth here. But these definitely need to be cleaned up. They'll go back in the shed. And then about beginning of May, I will transition them outside slowly. So I'm just going to sort of pick some of this off, cut off some of the dead flowers. They look kind of sad. And then we'll start vacuuming them. They do have some pine bark mulch in the top here, so we'll take that too. And we'll have to add more mulch. Now these can go in pots later on. These are the planting bags that they're currently in, which are heavy felt with handles. They're great for carting around. So I have been cutting off the spent blossoms here. And to tell you the truth, not quite as good as I was hoping it was going to look for my growth on the stems. I do see some of it seems kind of damp. However, back at the center, there seems to be some good growth for all of these so far. So I'm going to do the best I can and just take off anything that looks too dead and hope that I'm cutting in the right spots. These definitely could have my thrips overwintering very happily probably in these pots. So good that we are cleaning them up. It's really not going to be safe to have your hydrangeas uncovered if they are covered until about mid-May if you're in the 6B area. A lot of times at last frost you'll start to see some really good growth, and that last frost will take the buds that have set on. Certainly not something that you want to do. Now this guy is not looking great, but there is some very small signs of growth down here. So I'm taking off the very dead part and watching for wherever I see that growth beginning. And we'll vacuum this out because there's lots of stuff. This one looks really nice. This is Wee Bit Giddy. It really was attacked by a powder mildew at the end of last year. So this will also help as we clean out the dead pieces. If any of that powder mildew has overwintered, we can get rid of it so that hopefully we don't have that problem this year and that it doesn't spread to the others. With a powder mildew, you can spray up front, and I'm almost tempted with that one to give it a try. It is my only hydrangea that seemed to succumb to the powder mildew last year. So this year I'll be watching to see if that was just coincidence or if Wee Bit Giddy is a little bit more susceptible to powder mildew than I had expected. All of my bags here do have labels stuck in to remind me what they are. Here's City Line Venice. City Line Venice did an awesome job blooming last year. Really looking forward to seeing that one. Up here we have Double Down. I have a couple Double Downs. I rescued them from Lowe's on sale. I have to admit it wasn't maybe my first choice, but they looked sad. And they did a really nice job blooming, so probably worth nursing them back. They were a nice light pink with small little star-like flowers. Ooh. Okay. I need a potting table here to put these all up on. It would be a lot more comfortable. Okay, we're going to leave the rest for the vacuum. It's really hard not to get too into this and start taking too much of the branch off. Remember that your macrophyllus bloom on last year's growth. So I don't want to take off too many of these branches. This is where a lot of the buds will come. Now, some of your newer varieties bloom off of last year's growth and this year's growth. So if I screw up too badly, we still should have some blossoms coming from this year's. This is Everlasting Revolution. I had read a whole lot of good things about Everlasting Revolution. The flowers are really tightly knit together, like little cups. And they start blue and age pink. So you end up with a lot of different colors all at once on your bush. But it stayed really, really compact for me. It was not a showstopper like I was hoping. Okay, we're gonna try to vacuum. Here we go. This is kind of tricky just getting down in the center here, but this is really where you could have a lot of little hibernators. So I'm going to try to carefully do that. It's probably better than I could do otherwise. Here's Wee Bit Giddy again. So this is one I really want cleaned up. And I'm going to be careful and get the leaves that are on the ground here afterwards, because they also could be spreading. This hydrangea looks like it's going to need some dirt added to it. Here's our sign. Oh, this is another one of the double downs that I rescued. Still alive though, so that's good. The nice thing is nowadays most nurseries will give you a 1-year money back offer, so save your receipts if you are buying your hydrangeas this year. Hopefully you don't need it, but it's a good assurance to have. This hydrangea is a wedding gown hydrangea. I actually thought when I put these in the shed that the leaves would just all naturally fall off over the course of the winter. Instead, they sort of just dried and hung on. So my outdoor hydrangeas, as you saw, they were completely leafless. I'm assuming that's because we had enough wind out here that they lost their leaves. But one of the big reasons that I'm putting these inside is to protect them from the wind. So hopefully this is a good sign. We'll try to get in the center here. That's where it gets tricky. Pretty good. Okay, a couple more to go. Back to my Everlasting Revolution. I really believe you should only keep flowers that you like in your garden. Everlasting Revolution really didn't make the cut, but it seemed pretty hardy because I didn't give it a lot of attention, so I guess it deserves to stay for another year and see what we think. So here we have Rhythmic Blue. Rhythmic Blue is supposed to have a real nice deep bluish purple flower. It did nice and gave me some good blossoms in the fall too. So a lot of these that bloom off of last year's wood and this year's wood, you hope that you have your first flush of flowers July, and then around September they come back with more blooming off of that year's growth. So we're done vacuuming here. You're going to notice there's a lot of leaves hanging around, which I'm going to dispose of afterwards. You won't have to watch that. But I did want you to get a closer look at the growth that I'm seeing here. So you're seeing at the base lots of new little sprouts. So this will be this year's growth, which is fabulous. And then the buds that are forming on these branches, these were last year's branches. So this is last year's growth. We're hoping that if they make it through the rest of the winter, these will be blooming first, and then these, as they grow up, will give me my second flush when we get into about September. So you can see this one has a couple of nice pieces here. Now, I only watered them about once a month through the winter, but as soon as you start seeing this new growth here, they are not dormant anymore. You can get away with the once a month watering if they're really dormant, which they should be in the winter. But you know, this has been sort of a crazy winter, so we have, they're ready to go. And since we keep them in the shed, that's probably not the end of the world. What we start to worry about is if the outdoor ones are ready to go. I did not see new growth at the very base of our outdoor ones, so I'm hopeful that they will stay dormant a little bit longer. But those are my hydrangeas.